Hi, my name is Christopher Smith with Lantern News. Today I'm interviewing Ronnie Murchinson, who is running for United States House of Representatives for Florida's 6th Congressional District. We'll be discussing policies he plans on bringing to Washington. Ronnie, good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Busy. Definitely busy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse. My gosh.
Yep.
My
Yep.
gosh. But jumping right into the political questions, the good stuff here.
Right.
Uh, Given the economic crisis, especially in regards to lower class Americans and middle class Americans, what are some policies you'd support to address this issue?
Oh, there's so many. Oh, where can we start at? It's so much we have to work at, especially with the economy right now. First, we need to get out of this unconstitutional war that we're in that's raising the prices of everything um, with this war on in Iran. That's really taking a toll on people here. The gas prices here are almost close to $5 a gallon for, and I'm campaigning actively right now. And my district is so huge, it takes 3 hours to drive one way, and I am feeling it, and I know the people who are undeserved is feeling it. So I think the first thing is we need to tackle the crisis there. Um, we need to also tackle livable wages. We have a lot of retirees down here in Florida. Um, a lot of them receive Social Security where they only get like $900 a month because they're not, bringing it to the real world wage. They're using something since 1980 or something, and that's a lot we'll be hearing here in Florida. Uh, Wage growth as well is another one. The minimum wage here is slowly creeping up, but it's not nowhere near where it's supposed to be here in
What,
Florida.
what is it now, actually, in Florida?
It just raised from 7.25 to I think almost $11. Because I said
Okay.
7.25 the other day, but somebody said it actually went up a couple dollars. It's supposed to go up to 15 uh, statically.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
even if so, $15 an hour still is like pushing it. People still can't survive over $15 an hour. We got gas at $5. Beef is high. The price for everything is up. Housing prices. It's just a lot going on with people's lives, especially in these low income areas. And we're in a state where they really don't do a lot to help the people. I mean, we didn't even expand Medicaid yet. We're one of the last states to do that. And it's like people, even before the Affordable Care Act credits went away because of Trump, we still were suffering here because we haven't expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. So people were still paying triple the price of health insurance or not even getting help at all because Ron DeSantis refused to accept it because he said it's a Democratic policy.
Ronnie, given the health crisis in America regarding physical and mental health, especially things like the rise in obesity, anxiety, and depression, how would you address these issues?
So I touch on all these issues. I'm not afraid to share. I used to work in New York City. That's where I was originally from. I was an EMS. I worked there for many, many years, and I was big. My highest weight was almost 335 pounds, and that was
Okay.
just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm now 175 pounds because I had gastric bypass, and it was something I didn't do for the weight loss. I did it because my doctor said you have to do it. Your blood pressure's high. You're borderline diabetic. Um, you have to do this, and I didn't really want surgery. I tried to do it on my own, and it wasn't working. So, but I did it, and I thank God I did it because I'm very fortunate to be um, one of those who didn't have any side effects, and my body actually lost the weight and the fat. I didn't have to have surgery for the extra fat. So I understand the crisis we have here, and I think we all have a responsibility to not only eat healthy but give people healthy choices. I mean, you have a lot of low income people who who wants to eat healthy, who wants to go down a path of doing right what's good for their body, but it's so expensive. It's so expensive to eat right. I'd rather go to McDonald's, and stretch my last $10 and get 10 burgers than, go to a nice restaurant or even the same place and get something healthy that costs, $10 for one item. And it goes back down to affordability, and what people can afford because a lot of people do want to eat healthy. They want to be right, but they can't afford it. Um, and it goes back also to my health thing. Um, I think that things like that should be covered under medical insurance as well, because it's not a want. It's not a situation where it's one of those elective surgeries. It's something that people need to actually survive, or they can actually die. And so there's a whole way we can tackle this by reforming some bills to make certain things covered under Medicaid and Medicare, that people can get the help they can, and raising those costs of living so people can afford to eat healthy.
Ronnie, what's your stance on abortion? And this is kind of like a two-parter because there's the like pro-life versus pro-choice stance, but also now we're talking about keep it at the state level or bring it back to the federal level. So yeah, where are you on abortion in regards to those things?
So I'm gonna do the first one, the second one first, because I think it needs to be at a federal thing. I think
Okay.
all states need to be on the same exact level, because I shouldn't be able to go across the line and have a different law regarding my body, not my body, but in a female's body, as you know. But I mean, even males, I mean, they're trying to regulate everything, but I shouldn't go to Georgia and have a different regulation than in Florida or New York. But with that being said, I believe that it should be back enshrined into Roe v. Wade, and that should be enshrined in the Constitution, that abortion and access to medical care and everything is your right and your choice. I'm all for choice. I'm a Christian myself. I don't like abortions, but at the end of the day, it is in my choice to force a woman to do anything she wants to do with or without, uh, with or with her body. That's between her and her doctor. And if she want to involve her husband, that's her choice. You get what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's her life, her body. And what's going on with the government now is that they make all these rules where women can have abortions and all that, but then when the child is actually on this earth, nothing. They get rid of insurance to help the child out, no food stamps, no child care, no insurance, no college. And so I'm all for letting women choose what the heck they want to do with their own body, and the government needs to stay out of it.
Okay. You keep it at the federal, put it back at the
I
federal
would keep
level.
it at the federal level. Yeah, because it needs to be even across all states, and put it back in the federal level.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that it is like a pain in the neck. Totally different topic, which we'll get to later. But
Yeah.
firearms, kind of like I mean, kind of similar to Florida. I'm in New Hampshire, and it's like
Yeah.
but if I conceal carry and all the surrounding states, maybe in Maine I can carry there. Actually, I think I can. But if I go into Massachusetts, like I can't. I need there's permits and such, so it's kind of a headache. But I can imagine it's even worse if you're talking about a baby growing inside of you, and now you got
Yeah.
to worry about that headache, and worse.
I mean, I agree with the same thing with a firearm as well. I don't want to abolish firearms. I
Mhm.
just want to regulate it to my a child don't end up not coming home from school. And I think it also should be on the federal level. It should be, like you said, even throughout all states. Because to be honest, you live like me. I live in Florida now. I know New York laws because I lived in New York, so I know that they're very strict on firearms. But
Mhm.
you wouldn't know their law if you've never been there. So you would think, oh, maybe they have the same law as Florida. Let me conceal, and then you get carried. Now you got a felony on your belt. And I think it should be even across all boards, especially things like that that kind of touches the federal constitutional level kind of laws. I think those kind of laws should always be federal, so it won't be no question about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's actually let's just jump into that. Let's go even further. Just generally, like, what is your stance on firearms? Maybe you were kind of alluding to some limitations or restrictions or something. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but yeah,
Mhm.
just we can restart here. But kind of, yeah, what's your stance on firearms?
So I'm a former law enforcement officer. I never touched a firearm until I moved to Florida in 2017, because in
Okay.
New York is very, very strict.
Yeah.
You can have a firearm, but there's strict training, strict laws, strict responsibilities. And you know what? I tell people I understand both sides. New York is a big state with many big cities. You don't need to be walking around Times Square with an AR-15 on your waist. especially through all of terrorism and things that done happen in New York. You can understand how that can cause chaos. When you get to Florida and these southern states, there's a lot of open grass, fields and cows and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, we get it. I understand. So I'm actually in a position where I kind of understand both, and I don't want to get rid of firearms. I think and as a former law enforcement officer with a lot of friends who are law enforcement, I think Florida really messed up at the opportunity to hit this in the head because they got rid of the permits and they got rid of concealed carry. So now anybody can open carry without even having any form of training, anything, and just carry. And it made it hard for two things. First part is when you needed to get a permit here in Florida, you had to do some type of training, at least some type of training, even if it
Mhm.
was an hour or two, something. The nomenclature, you need to learn how to work that gun, learn how to clean it out, learn how to secure storage from children, and then take a test to make sure you caught it in your head. And you did it every other year or every 2 years. Don't mind me, I don't remember what it is. Um, and the other part is it actually helped law enforcement a little bit, where if you was concealed carrying, they could have stopped you to make sure you had a concealed weapons permit. And if you was a felon or any kind of, you know, person that had a mental issue that wasn't supposed to have a firearm, we could correct that issue right then and there. Now law enforcement can't, even if you carry an AR-15 walking through Orlando, which is like a mini New York City, they can't stop you. But God knows what your intentions is this day and age, and you could just have a mental issue where you just now you just start firing on everybody. We just saw it happen in Post nightclub not too long ago. That person walked in with a firearm concealed, but now look at how many people we have deceased because of that. So I'm not for abolishing firearms. I'm just looking out for human beings and children. Children is the number one humans entity, not entity. They're the number one category to be basically killed by firearms, even if it's by mistake, school shooting, whatever it is. We limit everything else, but the thing like that. So I don't want to limit it. I want training. I want to restrict. I want to do more background check, some kind of um, test to make sure with people are in the right mind. Um, I'm not saying every year, probably every other year, every 3 years, go see a doctor because it's we got to do something, not just say here's a firearm, go without your business and call it a day. I have firearms right here, as you saw in my picture. I have 5 children, and I teach my children about it. I take them to the firing range.
Mhm.
They're very responsible. I just want to make sure that these children do not keep dying at the hands of these weapons.
What's your stance on age verification for social media apps or operating systems? Do you know what I'm talking about? There's been some
Yeah,
it's been kind of like low key,
yeah,
this legislation. So, but yeah, as far as like I know Discord was thinking about doing it. I don't know where they're at now with it, but I'm pretty sure California has passed a bill. It'll go into effect January 1st. And
hmm
if you have an operating system, so basically if you're using an electronic device, there'll
yeah.
be an age verification thing on that. So yeah, what's your take on this? And like there's kind of a question mark of like data collection in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have children, as you see,
Hmm.
and um, I understand protecting children. I always want to protect children. I always want to protect children. But what people don't understand is that two things: children are curious monsters. They will find a way if they want to look up something, even if age verification or not. Like I'm speaking of my children directly. Like I can hide as much as I want, but they will find a way to look at whatever they want to look at. Is either they at nighttime they'll sneak my phone and go on my phone and some kind of protection or something. With that being said, I I always go back to letting the parents choose what they want to do with their children. It's their life. If their parent like me growing up, we didn't have age verification, and we was closely monitored. I know we didn't have a lot of technology as we have now, but we had some sort of technology that was getting into the YouTube era and stuff like that. And And we talked about it, but I'm only 35. I'm not that old, and I try to look into the mindset of a child and saying, listen, if we be too tough on them, they're gonna want to now look and see why are we being so tough on them. What is that you hiding from me, Dad? Um, in Florida, you can now you can't access pornography sites without age verification. But I can promise you now that there are ways around it because let me tell you, in Florida, you just got to click a button and say, I consent that I'm 18 years or older, blah, 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 blah. And I authorize for my device or whatever to go through this site, click, agree, and you in. Tell me how much protection is that going to stop my child? None.
Hmm.
Um, there are some sites that make you upload an ID, but then some people are getting into the whole data acquisition thing, like you're saying, taking a picture of my ID. Now it's getting into the whole constitutional viability of things, and so you're going to continue hearing this fight, um, and you're going to continue the government thinking they know what's best for these children. But I can let you know this right now: nobody knows what's best for their children than the parents that are raising these children. And let these parents be parents. Let the government stop trying to control everything, and you will see things fall in line. Um, at some point, we are going to have to teach our children about sex and things like that, in firearms and drags and all this stuff, because they're going to be curious about this thing. And and how come it's wrong for a child to learn about it and let them decide? I'm age dependent, but I have a almost 17-year-old down to almost 11 a 10-year-old, and they get curious. Mom, what's that? Dad, what's that? We have to talk to them about these things,
Sure.
and to limit a family to not, I don't like the limitation part about it. I'm more of a person where let that adult who is 18 years older decide what's best for their family. That's my whole platform, giving that control back to the people in the household.
Federal government spending has increased from about 4.4 trillion in 2019, so just before COVID, to $7 trillion in 2025. I think we're on track right now for about 7.2, 7.3 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at on government spending? Should we be spending more, less? Are we like at where we should be? What about also like changing how funds are? Like some people will talk about like taking some funds from one agency, giving more to another, this sort of thing. So yeah, what's your take on government spending?
Well, right
Federal
now, this
government.
administration, yeah, this federal government administration is spending crazy. Our deficit is almost two times the amount of normal government spending, and things like ballrooms and sending to other countries. I'm kind of opposed to that. I'm all taking care of our people here in our country first before any other country, not just Israel or Ukraine. I understand that you got to help out your allies. Um, the way I look at America is the mama of the household, and we have to take care of our children even when they move outside of our house. They still call you for help. So here's a little bit
Yeah.
of change. Here's a little bit of change. I get that part, but you still got to take care of yourself in your household before you can even branch out. Because in the words of my good friend um, Tyler Perry, when he played Medea, is how how, how the hell you gonna love somebody else if you don't love yourself?
Mm.
And that's how I look at it, right? So we got to control our spending outside, take care of America first, and then if we got enough money to spend outside, then we can start giving a little bit of chump change here and there or whatever we need, humanitarian and all that stuff. But coming back to the spending in America, I do agree that we do our normal budgeting every year, and when we got these responsible budget. I mean, do responsible. I'm not saying here's $1 trillion. You have to spend $1 trillion, but if you can save some money in some departments, do that, and let me take that money and give it to a department that kind of overspend, um, that needs it. Now, if they overspend stupidly, that's your problem. But if they're actually doing smart spending and cost effective thing, and they go over budget a little bit more, and say like the Department of Education, which is now closing down under this administration, which we're going to make sure we reopen that.
Mm.
But it's saying if the Department of Education don't spend as, they only spend $800 million out of $1 billion or whatever like that. Let's give the other 200 million to probably the transportation department that can help us fix the roads and the transportation. So I'm all for spending money in different departments if this department didn't spend all the money allocated to it. But it's all going to come down to smart spending. Whatever you do in any administration, in any kind of budgeting, even in your own household, you have to budget smartly. You might allocate $500 for food, but doesn't mean you have to spend the whole $500 for food. If you go shop differently at, like, instead of shopping at Publix, go shop at Walmart. What's wrong with that? Letting these agencies negotiate prices for themselves. You get what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
Mm.
I'm all for a smart spending and effective budgeting.
Ronnie, are there other policies you'd like to highlight? Other things you're for or against?
Um, affordability is really, really um, one of those topics that's been talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we need affordability to live.
Mm-hmm.
Lower rent, lower APR rates, lower car insurance. But my main biggest policy that I want to push has to be healthcare for me.
Okay.
And I tell you why healthcare. Not only because I worked in the healthcare field, and as my entire life I dedicated to public service. I worked, like I told you, EMS in New York. I was a cop down here. I started a nonprofit in New York. I worked on a school board around children, and I saw people at their worst of the worst, and I saw people not go get help and die because they can't afford health insurance. And I say my number one policy that I want to fix first is healthcare, is because I can go into Congress and get your beef prices down, your gas prices down, all these things down. But if you're not around to enjoy those things, what's the point? What's the point of me going to fight for higher wages and you collective union bargaining and strengthened pay if your insurance, you get sick one day and you refuse to go to the hospital because you're scared of that $1,000 bill, and you die in your house.
Mm-hmm.
So my policy is healthcare, taking care of yourself and your body to be here long enough to see yourself, your grandkids, your great grandkids be able to afford the America that we all want and that we all fighting for right now, equal voting rights. That's another big, big, big topic for me right now. Instead of affordability and healthcare, is the constitutional protections that we must enshrine in the Constitution. I think the Voting Rights Act should have long, long, long time ago been enshrined in the Constitution so that nobody vote or voice is diminished. Um, I'm all for making sure that we have. I'm a, like I'm a real progressive at things, and in the things where I believe that should be a human right, I'm all fighting for. Like, I don't know how people can sit up here and allow people to go through what they're going through and not care about, like, humans. The whole Voting Rights Act was happening in Louisiana, and my grandmother and a lady I call my grandma told me that she can't believe what's happening. She thought we would never see this again, and it only was about almost 60 years ago it happened. About 80 years, she said. And, like, she thought she wasn't going to be alive to see this happening again, going back in time where we're fighting for equal protection rights for not only women, but minorities and blacks. And that's something that my campaign as a black man, black Hispanic, because my name is Murchison Rivera, and I'm black and Hispanic, and I come from two races that has been racially profiled in unequal justice for a long, long time, and that's something that I'm willing to fight for in my platform. Like, I willing to go to any state to fight for the rights of not only my people, right? I fight for all. But what people don't feel, what people fail to realize is the Voting Rights Act was enacted because of the disenfranchised of the Black and Latino community and the low income minority. Like you got to talk about race when we talk about the Voting Rights Act, and and for it to be weaponized against the very people it was enacted for, is mind boggling to me. And that's something we have to fight for. So I'm all for putting that into the Constitution. And my last thing, I just was thinking about it and it went on my head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so much we have to fight for.
Mm.
You can't. This platform, when I go out and talk to people, and they ask me what's my number one thing, yeah, affordability, healthcare, but I can't just do one at a time. We have to attack this all at one because there's so many things happening. Like I'm I'm a former law enforcement officer, and I'm all for abolishing ICE. And I say that because I talk to many law enforcement officers. Many of them are Republican, and they will say the same thing, that what they're doing is not us. This is not why we got into this field. We didn't get into this field to harass people, violate their rights, kill people, all for them to go back to force them back to a country or a home where they're going to get that same terroristic threats and stuff that's happening. Because majority of people who flee from those countries are fleeing something for a reason, and and I think we need to fix our immigration system, because people should not be waiting 20 years to get citizenship or something in the country that we all built equally, because immigrants built this country just as much as Americans, and Native Americans. My wife is Native American. Her grandmother, they'll tell you that um, immigrants came here while they was here and built this country, and they accepted them. So why can't America do that same exact thing to all? I'm not saying come here, commit crime. I'm all for getting rid of the worst of the worst. What Trump promised, but we're not seeing that, and that's why I'm all for abolishing ICE, because I believe that agency got too deep into um, the waters to even fix right now. I think we need to probably abolish the whole agency and start from scratch, or give it back to the Department of Justice, or do something. Right now, not only Democrats, not only independents, but Republicans and America as a whole is looking at the agency like a terrorist organization. Because if you look at the definition of terrorism, they kind of fit into that definition right now. And that's what I'm seeing. So those are my platforms that I'm running on. I accept no AI pack money, because I believe what's happening in Israel is 100% genocide, and we need to call it like it is. Um, Americans want representatives that will be honest, and I'm very very honest in everything I do. I might hurt people's feelings, but at the end of the day, you're gonna come back to me in years and years later and be like, you know what, you were right, and I won't never question you again, because it's what it is. It's what's happening out there. And the person
Mm.
I'm running against, Randy Fine, is actually putting gasoline into that fire. And we don't need a representative that will call for the nuking of innocent civilians in another country, calling for the starvation of innocent children in other countries. Because if he can do that there, he can do that to our children here. And so that's my platform. That's why I'm running, because I'm giving my campaign and my representation of my district back to the people, and letting them have a real representation in Washington.
Very good, Ronnie. Ronnie, where can people find you? Website, social media?
Yeah, my website is very simple. It's www. The number 4 Congress, one word.com. And all my social media is Ron, FOR, Congress, all one word. Yes, somebody took the FOR out of the website before I got to it, so now I improvise. But if you can't type that in, you can just type my name in Google right now. Ronnie Murchinson Rivera is right here behind you. That's how you spell it. And I will pop up, and all my Instagram and social media handles and website will pop up right there. And yeah, and I don't know but if you listening to this and you live in Florida and you live in my district, come volunteer, come help us out, come change this community. Listen, I have Republicans on my team. They're fed up. I have independents on my team. They're fed up. I have the youth on my team. And when the youth start coming out and speaking up, something is really wrong. So let's go get this together. Let's get it out. And if you can't volunteer, donate, help us out. We grassroots, no corporate PACs, no AI PACs.
Yep. And it's Ron, the number 4Congress.com.
Yep.
Alrighty. Ron, that's all I got for you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.
Of course. You as well. Thanks.
Thank you.